in this game.
All right, and the leftovers are back on the table. GG Esports Academy, the former Optic Academy, where I'm going to be saying that repeatedly so people don't tune in and just wonder what in the world is going on. And this is an interesting look for GG Esports Academy, where they're actually putting Keller on the hit scan role, and Sharp is nowhere to be found, and that might just be ping issues right now.
Yeah, so it looks like we do have mirrored compositions coming out, both sides. Of course, running the Pharah, running the Widowmaker, both of them absolutely so powerful here. And as you mentioned, on LNL, I mean, both of our S's missing, right? Sharp missing from GG Esports, and of course, Sugar Free missing from LNL.
I don't get this. This is like watching an NBA game between the Cavaliers and the Warriors, and Curry's missing and LeBron is missing. I'm not even sure what's going on, but Enlair was able to get onto Keller immediately. That's a pretty good start here for LNL, and he picks off another. Already pretty good here for LNL. GG Esports Academy, we'll see how they respond.
They respond by falling to the ground as Enlair is able to find another angle, takes out Gray, so it's a huge man advantage in favor of GG Esports. They've got the sustain advantage, and it's Enlair about to kill the entirety of GG Esports Academy.
This is a new Enlair, where Enlair was playing in the last season of Contenders. He was a last-minute sort of, okay, Widow specialist, but clearly working on it here as he just decimates GGA from the backline.
And with that, they were able to take control of the point. They've got 16%, and there we go. Finally, GG Esports get their names on the kill feed as they take out Dino, and now they dive into the back line.
They're moving on in with that man advantage, a 6-on-5. Enlair, though, going to be looking for a bit of payback here once more. Looking to the skies, anyone that is available. Meanwhile, GGA is going, yeah, we're just going to go directly to the point. They bruise over LNL, and there's very little hope to get back in. Track goes for a swim with the hollow fishes, and it's going to be GGA retaking the point.
And that was pretty quick. 36% is all that was accrued by LNL here. And generally we say, you know, teams with the Pharah, it can be a bit difficult to retake, but, you know, it's the Widowmaker that makes a huge difference now. Keller, he's at 93% towards his Infrasight. So that's actually working out pretty well for them because Enlair, as they approach, they're going to run out of their Infrasight themselves.
Track holding it in the skies, has the barrage ready, and this is where at some point he's going to just boop himself in and look for the quick barrage, but the fight hasn't quite developed in that way. Enlar going for the sneaky pickoffs, not able to get it, but Decon does him a big solid. Keller's out of the fight immediately, and now LNL, with that 6-on-5, going to be a little bit more aggressive. Move on in, and Track being very judicious with his barrage right now. Doesn't want to use it just to remove Smurf from the fight, but he could regret that as GGA is starting to fight this one back.
I feel like he played way too passively there. They got the kill onto Keller. That meant the skies was free for him to go in. He could have gone for a barrage, get the defense matrix from his D.Va from Nex, and he would have been able to survive through it. Instead, he just held on to it the whole time. And so GG Esports are going to be able to just completely dissuade them, pull them back, and they will maintain control now, already securing 65%.
GGA in a pretty good spot right now, only needing 1 to 2 fights to bring this over the other way. Enlar, after an incredibly explosive opening, has fallen silent here so far.
At 61%, he's getting the damage across, but once again, it's kind of that disconnect, right, between the Pharah along with the Widowmaker. It's not the same as a Pharah and Tracer combination or a Tracer and Widowmaker combination, where one composition, definitely easier to follow up on the damage. This one, not as easy, but Keller takes Track out of the sky again.
Track picked off immediately, but Ajax brings him back up, isn't punished for it. Enlar falls to the other end, and now, if Track is gonna have a moment to let that barrage go, it'll be now, but he gets nothing for it. GGA working on the outskirts, and LNL just looking disheveled and broken right now after what was a very promising start. First round goes to GGEA.
Yeah, it looks like GGEA waking up just in time there, 136% in their favor. And while things started off for Enlair, he really did fall off towards the tail end of this point. I mean, he started off with a pentakill and then got absolutely nothing after that. It was all Keller coming in, and now here we go. We're moving on to Control Center. This is where we're gonna see a much different composition than we do on the other 2 points. On both sides, we've got Zarya's. Right now, we'll see if Smurf sticks with that. No, he should be changing over to the Reinhardt unless they go for this triple DPS composition.
Yeah, look, Smurf is a bit of a prankster. I fully expect him to be swapping over the Ryan, and there you have it. Smurf actually could have named himself Troll, and it would also be accurate.
So, we have very nearly mirrored composition. There we go. And with the Mercy swap-offs, it is going to be absolutely mirrored here. Hanzo, Cowboys, and Ninjas coming out from both sides really here.
We're just missing
robots. Yeah.
No, we have robots.
We got robots.
We actually have all the standard things that we want to see fight each other.
We're missing pirates. That's really about it.
Smurf, though, easily able to get on decal with the aid of Fisher, and GGEA just being highly aggressive off the early pickoff. Meanwhile, Fisher in the back was looking for the other Hanzo. Track is going to fall, and it's just death by attrition here as GGEA gets the pickoffs they need and get the first point.
And it's so difficult to try and move a composition like this when you're running such a slow composition yourself, that mirror comp. So now that's going to allow GGEA to step a bit more forward if they want to, but they're going to fall back because Fisher doesn't have his Dragon Strike quite yet. That could be a huge zoning tool, especially in these tight corridors of Control Center.
Fisher in a good spot here towards the right-hand side. Doesn't have to worry about too much poke heading his way, just needs to be cautious, keep an eye on what's in front of him. LNL taking a little bit slow, not forcing GGEA the commit just yet, but now speaking of committing, Smurf has the Earth Shatter up a little bit earlier than Decod, but he's not really telegraphing it. He's just holding back and he's being sneaky. Meanwhile, Enlar picked off. Now Smurf's gonna go in, holds the Shatter, drops the hammer, and it connects. GGA easily gonna get the better of this fight. And they even, Transcend got used, but it's wasted.
They did get some trade kills, right? Aid fell and everything, but still, it was not enough. Oh man, throwing good money after bad. That is what LNL did there. Just taking such a slow, too methodical approach, I would say, because that bought time for GGEA to really come up with these ultimates, and now they've got the Space Dragon combination laying in wait.
Vol is just licking his chops right now, lays in the Graviton effortlessly, and Fisher lets the Dragon fly. 3 quick kills for GGEA, and look, man, people talk about checking your corners, the old school Overwatch tip, and Zarya could be anywhere. She is ready to surprise you, and she doesn't care about what time of day it is.
Yeah, if you don't see a Zarya, you just kind of like think maybe she's around this corner, maybe she's around the corner, right? You're a lot more suspicious if you don't see a Reinhardt, and so that's why they just don't check that corner. But GGEA now on the cusp of taking this map one team fight away. They've got some pretty good tools. They're going to go ahead and instantly use that Valkyrie moving into this with the damage boost, but it was the heals that Smurf needed.
Smurf ends up falling. Decom was barely kept up in line, and the big part for LNL is they might take this without having the invested Graviton. Keller really living up to the idea of high noon right now, high in the sky, drops on down, fans right in the Ajax. Don't think that's going to be quite enough, though. I don't think GGA really wants to stream in. They're working with the house money right now. 90% for LNL to try and catch up.
Now Smurf, he's almost got another Earth Shatter on the deck. He's at 77%. Vol and Fisher both on the same track towards another combo. So we'll see. They have plenty of time. They don't need to rush things at all. They can try and wait for this combo to get that final team fight win here.
Fisher going in off the flank. The Graviton set up by LNL. Is fall through gonna be there? Yeah, it is. The Dragon just gonna carve his way on through, devouring Vol and Smurf. And LNL converting on that ultimate currency. 40% for them.
Vol will still have 2 more fights to try and get that Graviton. He's only 30% away, so he should be able to get this Graviton, finish off the map for GGEA. That's the big win condition for them here, and they have the extra tools to secure that, as they've also got, of course, the Earth Shatter, they've got the Transcendence, and Aid will be coming up on that Valkyrie.
And Smurf showed really good judgment with his Earth Shatters last season, had a good one already today. Fisher at the early pickoff, and look at the aggressiveness change here. Smurf is going to start going forward a lot more aggro in this moment because he doesn't have to worry about the damage heading in. Can drop the hammer and does. Gonna knock down 2. The Graviton for good measure. It is a party that right now LNL does not want to be invited to. Fisher gets a fall through, and that should be the round and the map.
Overtime ticks away. GGEA gonna go ahead and continue that 2-0 streak that we have here on Lijiang Tower, taking their first win of Contenders Season 2.
This entire matchup was just weird to me, though, just from the sense that where was Sugar Free, where was Sharp?
Yeah.
I understand the reasoning for Sharp. I don't know where Sugar Free went.
Yeah, you were hyping him up so much. I was like really confused not to see his name up there.
LNL did it specifically to troll CG. They heard him at the beginning of the broadcast.
Wow.
We're gonna make him sweat.
You lost 2 rounds in a row. Good troll, guys. Like, okay,
Gotcha.
they committed to it. I mean, that's commitment, but it's a different LNL team when Sugar Free isn't in there.
So do you think that if they put him in there, it'll be a completely different game next time?
That based on their match history, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, the DPS on the side of GGEA got away with absolute murder. They got to do anything at all. If you saw Keller on the McCree, he was just a complete outlaw. He was going anywhere he pleases, and he was not getting punished at all. Someone else needed to be there to be a huge major threat. They just did not have that on the LNL squad.
Yeah, the scales were really very heavily tipped in GGEA's favor. It didn't seem really balanced at all. Is that something that you're used to seeing?
Well, I mean, GGA, when they win, they tend to be a little bit more decisive. I do know that part of it is their tank frontline, right? Where if you're to compare the Fusion University, I would say that Smurf is probably one of the most promising tank prospects. And part of it is that he just always exercises good judgment. It's rare to see him waste Earth Shatters. And when you can rely on the frontline like GGA can with a player like Smurf, generally speaking, they don't have crazy mistakes, and they tend to punish mistakes from other teams a little bit more heavily.
Yeah, and you could tell, especially there on Control Center, this is, of course, another story of that kind of like measured approach versus a team that's not as measured because they don't have the same kind of backing, right? You can see the experience in GGEA. You can see their coaches drilling in, hey, it's okay. You have the 99 to 10% lead. You don't need to rush anything. So they took it methodically and slow, especially there on Control Center. They took the wipe because, well, there we go. That was the Graviton along with the Dragon. We're going to go ahead and take those fights any day, and we'll come back with our own combination and finish out this fight. There was no rush in them at all. They took it one step at a time, and it showed how cool and collected they were throughout this entire map.
It seems that GGEA has a lot of strategy going into these fights. Have you seen a lack of strategy from LNL, or is it just a fluke? What are we seeing here?
Well, I mean, the strategy for LNL and a lot of the games like leading into this was kind of, okay, support Sugar Free. It was sort of the old school selfless to Fran strategy of how do you coach selfless? Let Defran destroy the entire enemy team.
All right.
And, well, not so much here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully we will see Sugar Free get put in, and we will see some more strategy, or the strategy of protect and let him destroy everything. But we're about to go into King's Row, so what can we expect to see from each team on this map?
Tanks. More heavy
Tanks.
Reinhardt play.
Tanks on tanks on tanks?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hanzos, Junkrats possibly, Widowmakers. You know, this is one of those maps where you can run basically anything. Well, you could also run dive, but for the last few months, it's been a lot more tank heavy, especially with Orisa, Divas, Hogs. Their synergy is just so good, especially throughout the majority of the map, point A, B, and C.
And we know that Zaryas are really great on King's Row. Can we expect to see the Zarya from any of these teams?
Oh, absolutely. Vol actually made a lot of his early name off of his Zarya play, both good and bad, where in the very beginning he was more of a streaky player where he would donate Gravitons more often than not. But if you look at him over the last Contender season to now, he got rid of that habit, and he's been probably one of the more improved off-tanks, where I don't think he's the flashiest off-tank, but he's very effective, especially in working in tandem with Smurf, and that's been something that GGA has been able to rely upon going back to their Optic Academy days.
That's one of the things, actually, we didn't really get to talk about throughout the shows yet, because this is kind of like the off season for the Overwatch League. A lot of these academy teams are actually being afforded extra kind of support and having actually their OWL coaches helping them out. And so this is kind of nuts. I mean, you have people like Arrow coming in, you have people like Mayhem is going to be receiving extra support themselves. Like, there's a lot more support, especially if you're on these academy teams, that's kind of showing already.
So can we expect to see a kind of mirrored play style from the big brother teams to the little brother teams, do you think?
I'm not sure that would be the case as we head in, just because the patch differences between Live and what OWL is on like kind of mess that up, where Contenders has always been a little bit desynced from OWL. But Contenders oftentimes is a little bit ahead, so if the strategy is going to show up in OWL, you'll oftentimes see it first in the Contenders level play, which is still pretty neat.
So it's kind of going to be the little brother teaching the big brother almost.
It's more like the big brother going, oh, you have a good idea, now let me just dunk over you because I'm going to do
and smash your face into the ground and say that I did it first.
Well, it's like so the OWL coaches come in with kind of like, oh, we know what happens when you bring Brigitte into this meta, and we can make that work, but then we don't know how the new Hanzo works. So like they're kind of like testing their chops right there too. You know, it's kind of a fusion between both teams there as they try to figure this all out. It's, I would say, good experience for both sides, for the coaches and for the players themselves. So I mean, this is really cool. This is an exciting time to be a part of Contenders, okay?
Absolutely. Are you hoping to see something a little bit more exciting coming into these new maps, like more Brigitte play, even though it's King's Row, but like just something different to really spark your interest?
I mean, again, I just want to see how people adapt to the ever-changing meta, where you did have a bit of a sort of storm in the Tier 2 scene with a team called Goats that was running, of course, the Brigitte-fueled just run into the other comp, but that actually ended up fading before Contenders Trials, where Goats kind of used all that and caught teams off guard in tournaments that didn't lead in the Contenders, and then they weren't actually able to get in the Contenders, but it was sort of proof of the idea that with new heroes like Brigitte, teams can figure new things out, and just seeing the meta evolve is always pretty cool.
I've been seeing a lack of Moira play. Do you think we'll be seeing any of that, or is my girl down for the count?
That's the odd part, right? Because Moira was kind of like the engine that made the GOAT composition work. You go in with the Lucia, with the Moira, with the Brigitte, you just have massive healing and also a lot of damage coming out from your supports. But yeah, the lack of Moira, I think it's just because triple tank isn't being as run as much, and that's where you really do see her succeed. She was also very strong on maps kind of like University for Oasis, and that's not been brought up quite yet. So I don't know if we're going to be seeing her anytime soon.
All right, let's talk a little bit about King's Row, like the specifics of this map. What makes a good composition on this map? What makes a good team strategy on this map? What do you want to see?
Well, for starters, having a Reinhardt player is generally a good idea. It's been a map that's been Reinhardt friendly even before we started seeing him a little bit more often, but it looks like the players have gotten ready. King's Row awaits. Oh, we're just looking at King's Row. Never mind, I've been fully baited.
I mean, yeah, definitely Reinhardt is just so huge here. You can try to run that Orisa, but it's so difficult to try and run her because there's a difference between, you know, a 2,000 HP shield and not 2,000 HP. You can just soak up so much more damage as a Reinhardt. And of course, when you get into these really tight quartered spaces, you've got a huge hammer. So you're going to dish out a lot of damage.
And also, I mean, you look at the map fly through here, very inherent to King's Row is that it's not as wide open of a map as some of the other maps in the game, which means that a Reinhardt doesn't have to worry about getting flanked as much. It's harder to avoid hitting Zarya's shields. Certainly, when you look to the idea of using ultimates like Graviton, you have easier setups. So that's why at King's Row, it's always been more favorable to those heroes. Also, it's not a map with the biggest skybox, so even though teams have made Pharah work from time to time, it's a harder sell than it would be on maps that are more wide open, like, say, the city center of Oasis, where the sky is quite literally your limit.
I'm trying to remember the last time I really saw a very good Pharah here. But there were some really cool text that I saw with, have you seen, well, of course, it's always this dip here, that pit that you can fall into, that everyone plays around with, right? Winston jumping through, your Diva jumping through, Pharah jumping through. You can also do with Wrecking Ball now.
Or back cap with Hammond,
yeah. I always love this third part. This is where maybe sometimes you don't play the Reinhardt. Some people want the Winston because you do have some natural high ground that like Widows can take, that it can be very difficult to try and dislodge them if you don't have the Winston, if you don't have the Diva. And so we'll see what happens if we move into that part.
It'll be interesting for sure. I mean, teams have kind of figured out King's Row, but it also makes King's Row one of the more exciting maps to watch because it is such a style change from some of the other maps in the game right now, and can reward a team for being a little bit better at the ground and pound style.
And I know that you brought up playing Junkrat on King's Row. What are the benefits to using a character like Junkrat?
He owns the hotel. Yeah. He actually has rooms permanently booked out in the hotel. They cannot evict him. And the reason is that it's sort of one of those things where if you are going to challenge it, you are at a risk of someone just dying immediately or taking enough poke damage that the rest of his team can then dive in. Junkrat is just very good at controlling spaces, particularly in the tiny corridors of King's Row, especially on point A.
We saw actually earlier today why he was so potent, especially on point A. When they were holding on the apartment high grounds there above the points, he just goes ahead and lays down a trap, make sure there's only one avenue to approach from him. And so if a diver tries to go in there, they're gonna land on a trap and they're gonna take a whole lot of damage straight to the face. And so that's why he's so strong, especially on point A. It's just such a controlled and measured style, and teams can really play it kind of dynamically. They don't have to always set up there. Like Andrew had mentioned, like ZP had mentioned, you could take the hotel on the low ground too, and from there, at any point, he could flank the entire team, and all of a sudden, half your team's dead.
Also, Riptire is just kind of hard to avoid on that first area, where there's plenty of areas where it can dive in on your team, and you don't have a whole lot of room to work with in terms of avoiding it, so you have maybe a half-second window to deal with the tire before it takes down one person, and taking down one person is usually enough in many cases to just ruin the chances of an offense.
And you brought up the narrow hallways of this map. Is that why it's so often we see a Zarya Hanzo composition going on here? Because it's just so easy to combine those two ults into massive destruction.
I mean, yeah, and also Hanzo is shooting logs, right? Like, he doesn't have to be quite as accurate as, say, a Widowmaker is, and he can throw an arrow down a tiny hallway, and the odds that you're going to hit someone are higher than you might expect. So that's really you see a Hanzo go, I'm going to shoot over here and expect to get someone.
Right.
Oh, hey, I got someone. Let's go.
Right.
I mean, of course, it used to be worse when he had his scatter arrow, right?
Right.
It's just like blind fire into a hallway, and then you're going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
But now he's at least got to have kind of vision of someone, but still, the storm arrows are so strong at this point.
Let's talk more about those storm arrows as we watch this game.
And he has arrived. Better late than never. Sugar Free now playing for the LNL squad. No sharpness for GGEA. Of course, sharp not there, but that just very well could be ping related. But Sugar Free going to his trademark Genji, and we might be in for a show.
Yeah, it's a full dive coming up from LNL here. So immobile composition versus the most mobile composition in the offense. Enlayer now creeping up the stairs here. He's going to try and get some damage off onto Smurf. This is actually an opportunity for them to go to the dive because the shield just got reset, and so instantly LNL jump on this. But Decod doesn't have the defense matrix to keep him alive, so he does fall.
Decod's blown up immediately, but Sugar Free already worked his way to the back. Got on aid, and he's setting up Dogman. It's Sugar Free with a double kill early on, and it is enough. Keller takes him down, but not before the damage is done. And LNL already looking a bit like a different team. Sugar Free, 78% ult charge in that first fight.
Yeah, that was, we were talking about how, you know, GGEA looked calmed and measured there, but that was a really good dive coming out from LNL. I had mentioned, you know, Enlayer, they're going to wait out the dive as soon as the shield resets. Decod jumps in, he died, but that meant that GGEA used everything on him, meaning they had nothing to deal with Enlayer and Sugar Free once they got into the back line. Now Enlayer, he's going to swap off. He's going on to the Pharah because there's really nothing to deal with it. Maybe Fisher with that Hanzo.
This is a stupidly early Dragon Blade that's already charged up, and Sugar Free's already using it! Into the back, picks off 2! And that is going to be enough. It sets up LNL to immediately follow through. And once more, it's Sugar Free making the space needed for LNL as GGA is caught with their pants down.
Ooh, they almost got that final kill. Stagger onto Keller. There we go. Next, we'll finish him off. And so that's going to allow them to continue to push forward this payload. You know what? That is huge. Now as Enlayer swapping off onto that Pharah, needed that extra space to try and get going here to move on to the second phase. They're almost all already at the end of Streets.
So GGA, they can definitely defend this back. They almost have the Transcendence. All Gray needs to do is just land a little bit of damage. He's going to be able to support GGA through this entire push. This is looking a little bit better for the defense. As long as no one gets picked off early, and Gray immediately pops the Transcendence. Sugar Free runs afoul of an arrow, and GGA now just gets to casually take the rest of this team fight. Decod invests the Primal Rage, and they res up Sugar Free, so maybe they can turn it back around, but Fisher, he's had enough, gonna drop the Dragon Strike, making room on the payload, and that should be enough for GGA.
Yeah, the Primal Rage is batting around Sugar Free. He's getting close towards another blade. He's at 80%. And so for the next fight, he'll be able to bring that to bear on the necks of LNL now.
What a grisly prospect.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's the old Japanese proverb, not proverb, saying, right? Wash your neck, I'm coming for you. LNL now. They still have 3 minutes and 35 seconds to go, and Sugar Free with another play. They've also got Enlayer that's going to have that barrage. So Sugar Free can just go in, bait out the barrage, bait out any kind of ultimates if Gray could get it up in time, and then they can go in with that barrage.
Well, here's the thing. Sugar Free has certainty. He knows that Gray just used Transcendence here, so he can dive in aggressively in the next 10 seconds or so and have a reasonable idea that there's not going to be a Transcendence waiting for him. However, he's waiting a long time. Gray doesn't get the Transcendent time. Sugar Free picks off 2 immediately. He's not done yet, but it's Smurf and 8 trying desperately to buy time now for a very wounded GGEA team. It's just not going to be enough from the looks of it. The question is, does Enlar make it rain? He might.
With the Rockets, just normal Rockets there. They're going to be able to clean up this Winston. Then from there, secure the second point, move on to point C, and Enlar already back on his way to spawn, possibly? Nah, he's got the barrage. He wants to use it. This is actually a pretty good place to try and just at least go with that run.
GGEA thrown back. Every time Sugar Free has had a Dragon Blade up, it has been a disaster for GGEA so far. But Keller gets a go to Widowmaker now. And we'll see if he can slow down the pace of the game as Sugar Free takes one right to the noggin.
Well, yeah, surely, though, A's got another res, but they do dive in, does the rest of GGEA to try and cover that, make sure they do not get it off. It's Ajax to bring Sugar Free back into this as a self-destruct connects onto Fisher. So LNL, they've been able to create the space. They're going to charge
Picks
more,
off
picks up
two!
more kills now, and the payload will continue to press forward.
He got rezzed and immediately ends up with an extra 2. Keller finally puts him in the grave for good. The res not going to be up in time, but look at what this has done for LNL. They get even more progress.
GGEA trying their best to stem the bleeding. They will be able to pressure onto the payload now. D-Cot not able to jump on out, and so with the tank line gone, LNL will go ahead and reset.
And this is the breathing room that GGEA needed here, where Keller now can just poke a little bit back and forth. Although, LNL, they're deciding to throw in the Dragon, seeing if something is there. GGEA just gonna back off a bit. They are down Fisher right now. Keller, plenty of room to work with. Smurf gonna come back in over the top. Gray holding on to Transcendence as Aid opens up with the Valkyrie, and GGEA has a pretty nice engage to open this off.
D-Cot jumps to the back line. He does fall for it, but didn't prop the primal. Maybe he doesn't need to, as the snipers of LNL pick up 2 kills. Now Resurrection comes out with the aid of that Transcendence for GGEA, so Smurf is brought back into this.
Both teams trading out Transcendence there. GGEA almost getting caught with their pants down towards the very end. Sugar Free, 100%, has the Dragon charged up. For now, just trying to control space on the top. Smurf is out of the fight, and Sugar Free holding on to the Dragon, being intelligent on it, waiting for respawns, and now he's gonna let it fly. Is he gonna get anything here? Not quite, but LNL is still pushing this payload.
They almost get the D.Va mech, but he's able to go ahead and use the boosters to get right out of trouble. They're cycling in between the Winston and the D.Va, now going on the offensive, trying to get the Widowmaker up top, but nothing happens as the peel is there for LNL, so they go ahead and only get dislodged, but they'll be back up there in just another moment.
LNL going for a further reset, and by the way, credit where credit's due. Gray has been getting Transcendence up incredibly quickly, where he just used one last fight. Dogman using last fight as well. Both Zens playing a top form. Dogman transcends first, and GGEA working on man disadvantage, has to transcend back the other way. Aid picked off by Enlar, and LNL getting a better look at things here so far, as Enlar on the top, looking for the pickoffs, unable to track down Gray. And Smurf actually did a wild disruption there, but I'm not sure it's gonna be enough, as respawns do start coming back in.
Yeah, and of course, once the restarts come back in, it's gonna be in favor of the defense at this point in the map, just because of the distances themselves. So GGEA reinforcing quicker, LNL having to completely reset now, as they're left with less than a minute to finish off this map.
LNL, they started off with a bang, right now might be ending with a whimper. GGEA was able to re-establish here on the final point, and there's not a lot of power in this push here. LNL just needs to either bait some multi-GGEA and reset, and Sugar Free almost knocked into the pit. He's gonna let the Dragon fly though. 1 Dragon on the top, 1 Dragon on the bottom. Enlar getting Keller, that might be exactly what LNL needs, as now they've made an opportunity.
Nano boost onto Smurf, but still, as long as you've got that Orb of Discord on you, you take so much damage, especially with the Hanzo in your face now. Sugar Free just completely owning the zone, with Enlayer now also providing coverage fire for his tank line now, as they're just able to completely dominate now this last stretch of the team fight. The respawns are coming in, but GGEA are coming in so staggered, and one by one they are falling, but it looks like they'll get it over to overtime as the Transcendence comes in.
And that's Gray just getting there in the nick of time. Vol coming back out, respawns back in for GGEA. They've done enough to bring it to overtime, which is enough that if they finish with over a minute left, they have a very good victory condition. LNL, though, they'd very much like to make sure that they at least finish out the map. Sugar Free gonna let loose the Dragon from the outside, clearing the payload and letting LNL get that final point here in Kings Row. But but a valiant defense from GGA on point C, where they had a lot of time to defend, but they made LNL spend every last bit of it.
Yeah, and I mean, it was no lack for trying on Sugar Free's side, too. I think he had like 3 Dragon Strikes at the end of that last fight. He opened it up right there at the U-turn at Horseshoe, where he used the Dragon Strike to cut off the exit so that he could get Keller trapped, so he wasn't able to make it back to the rest of his team. And then in the middle of the fight, he had another one and then ended it there. So Sugar Free is putting in a lot of work, and we're already seeing a huge difference coming out for the side. I mean, his Genji early on did so much for them. Every time they had a blade, they won the fight.
It's a DPS performance that they did not get back on the first map. And thinking back to it, just in how things started, I know LNL needed extra time waiting for a player for the first map, and then going into the next map, we kind of had the stall for a little bit. I do wonder if Sugar Free just had something come up in his personal life where he couldn't quite get here in time, but luckily he was able to get here for King's Row, and it's definitely making for a more entertaining set so far.
Now, and LNL on their defense, this is kind of just the composition that we're pretty familiar with. You know, teams running the D.Va along with the Orisa. Very defensive composition, try to make sure they maximize the lifetime of the Orisa barrier. And of course, having the Widowmaker, that one-shot kill potential, and the Junkrat, who's just so much area denial along with zone control.
And Sugar Free, I mean, not only does he have just very good game sense on his projectile heroes, which includes Junkrat, he's also very spot on with his tires. So a key thing for GGA here is that, look to the left side, pick off Sugar Free early, don't let him get into that inescapable cycle where you're dealing with a tire every other fight.
So, Sugar Free does have to be careful, but he's going to have the safety of the Orisa barrier to work with. Double sniper composition, though. So threats come at you from all sorts of angles now as Fisher makes his way over that fence. He's going to go ahead and peek into Hotel here, take some damage for his efforts now. This is where they kind of diversify the threats, right? Coming in from different angles.
Sugar Free not playing too much early on as Enlar takes down Keller from afar. LNL has a little bit more certainty to this early defense here, and it's actually been a very quiet opening here for Sugar Free, not getting too much in the way of damage, but the rest of his team certainly picking up the slack. Enlar being a surgeon on the outskirts here, and this is a good defense so far.
Yeah, very good defense because they actually deny that tick. They don't get it at all on the side of GGA Esports, but Fisher now coming up with the kills with the help of Gray. And so they might have caught the respawners here, and it's just Orisa left out by herself. She's got the Fortify, she's got the Zen Orb to keep her alive. She'll back away and stay safe for now. But that does mean GGEA finally secure that first tick.
Well, the key part there, too, is that LNL just got out of the way of their barriers. They gave an opportunity for both Gray and Keller to get pickoffs, and now they put themselves in a really rough spot after starting out good. They open with the Transcendence. They're not able to get anything for it. The Transcendence basically wasted early on here by Dogman. Sugar Free only at 50%, still struggling to find his footing on this Junkrat. LNL, they have to commit on to the point. Next, gonna lob the self-destruct over. GGA, able to rotate around it. Sugar Free, still lobbing from the top, and down he goes. Fisher just shoots that arrow in. Bullseye directly on the Sugar Free's head. And this is looking awfully bad for LNL, where they're able to buy some time, but the wave of GGA will be crashing against their shore, and the payload will move.
Now we move into the Streets phase here, and GGEA, you know, they've been able to build up a lot of ultimates for this next fight, so this looks great for them. They've got the Primal Rage, they've got, of course, Vol with the Self-Destruct, and AIDS Valkyrie. So, Fisher, he's going to have plenty of time to work with to get up, of course, that Dragon Strike, although he's only 25% away. And honestly, he just needs to land 1.5 arrows at this point to get it. But it's LNL with the wholesale changes, basically on the tank line. D-Cut and next swapping off. They go from the D.Va and the Orisa onto the Zarya and Reinhardt here.
Well, Sugar Free does finally have a tire up. It's been a long road for him. Enlar already down, so this tire needs to succeed from Sugar Free. It's using the terrain to its advantage, finds the aid, but a bigger boom on the other side. Fall gonna take down 2, and that is more than enough for GGEA here. Dogman's getting res back into the fray. We have Battle Mercy and Ajax, and Gray just says, get that out of here, get out of my sky, get off of my payload. GGEA continues to move forward.
Dogman's just wondering why. Why are you resing me into the middle of 4 people here? You know, that does stall out just a little bit longer, but ultimately you just gave ultimate charge away to the enemy team now. Take a look, Fisher in this stance of dominance. He's got, of course, his lunge, so he can actually be very aggressive with this. He's also got the Dragon Strike, so LNL do have to be careful. Dragon Strike's already coming on out.
Early Dragon Strike from Fisher going to be bisecting LNL, and they use the opportunity to get on Nex. Nex taken down from that arrow from Fisher. A shot to the head. He is brought back up, and we see Dogman use the Transcendent. LNL really trying to fight this one back. They charge on in, and Gray's Transcend a little bit late, unable to save Fisher in time. And LNL, they're going to drive GGEA back.
And this is a great spot for the defense to hold on because, well, the respawn differences. It is so far for the offense here that GGA Esports, they're not going to be able to reinforce quickly, and they're going to be coming in staggered one by one if they try to. So instead, they fall back here. They're going to swap off themselves Reinhardt and Zarya in play now from both sides.
Fisher, 60% towards a Dragon Strike. Smurf, of course, on the Reinhardt, as mentioned. It's going to be a while until he has the Earth Shatter up, but GGA looking to be a little bit more tanky here with that wholesale tank swap up. See the Dragon? Oh, Sugar Free dines at the GGA buffet. Well played by Sugar Free and well timed. The damage boosted Dragon gets its due.
He didn't even need the Graviton there. I mean, Nex was like 85%, right? He's 15% away from a Graviton. He's like, hey, you know, we can secure this 100%. But Sugar Free's like, no, I got this. And you know what? I don't worry about him building up another Dragon Strike in time. I mean, Nex might have to hold on to his for a little bit longer, or they could try and combo it with a damage-boosted decod. We'll see.
I really don't think they're going to wait for the Dragon unless Sugar Free just magically gets up to 80% in the next few. I think you take a look at Nex. Nex is going to be sneaky here, or dive straight on in. He goes straight for the grab immediately. No sneakiness needed, and it works. It works out perfectly fine. Decod doesn't even have to use the Earth Shatter, so there's a bold move. And it actually worked out.
Yeah, Ajax goes ahead and pops his Valkyrie there, so he's got the chained damage boost going out to the entire team. So Nex, who's already was about at 80% energy, maybe 85, along with Decod just swinging on them with a hammer, all damage boosted. That's the combo you need. That's all the combo you need, and Sugar Free will now have another Dragon Strike ready. And that's why they are pushed up all the way here, trying to force them into this choke. That doesn't get anyone, but that does cut them off, allows them to get Smurf, allows them to get Keller, and now they're down to a minute, our GGEA.
And Nex already up to 63% charge on his Zarya. GGA in a world of hurt right now. We'll see how they decide to get themselves out of this. Fisher holding on to the Dragon Strike. Vol very charged up, so you want to talk about grab Dragon combos right now. Look for Vol, he's looking real aggro. Drops a Graviton, picks on two. A Dragon from the outskirts gonna come in from Fisher. It's not beautiful, but it's enough. They get two, and now the question for LNL is, can they reset in time to keep the payload defended on second? It's gone back so far that they might.
Yeah, these aren't overtime respawn timers, by the way. We're not quite there yet. So there's an opportunity. LNL can get back into this. Nex is going to have this Graviton Surge.
Maybe early Lucio swap. They're going for it. Dogman went to the Lucio, so he's going to speed boost them out, and they're going to go for the just super quick raw Graviton. Are they going to get there in time? No! They don't get there before it's capped. GGA gets extra time, and the Graviton is used fruitlessly.
They win the fight? But a lot is committed from both sides here, just because they want to secure GGEA. They were up against the ropes, right? So they throw everything into that, both support ultimates along with the Earth Shatter. Same on the other end. LNL, maybe there's a miracle there, right? So we'll see. Now, Nex, he threw that Graviton in there. He got them a lot of kills, but ultimately now, they might actually.
Oh!
Ooh, Sugar Free!
Beautiful stuff!
Never mind. They don't need Nex with the Graviton Surge. Sugar Free's fine.
That was poetry in motion there. Gets one, finishes his wall climb, and says, here, have another. Sugar Free, shell-shocking GGA, and they're down to their final 30 seconds. And here's a Dragon to boot. Picks off another two.
Yeah, there are more Dragons in here than Dragon Ball at this point. I mean, how many wishes has he secured at this point, right?
How many times has Krillin been revived? Like 80?
80.
I don't know. Let's not get crazy.
We'll take a look at the elimination counter for Sugar Free. That should be kind of like the same amount, right?
I mean, it would not surprise me. Krillin is not a very durable human being. He just has bad luck. But hey, he makes Goku really mad, and that works out just fine.
Oh, Endlayer now getting in on the action. He's tired of Sugar Free taking up the kill feed here. Graviton Surge is used as overtime ticks away now. Ball the sniper is getting into this. Dogman himself now helping him clean up, and now LNL might have just secured it. It's just Fisher left. Battle Mercy comes in, but it's Dogman to finish it off. Overtime ticks away, and LNL will tie up the series 1-1.
And GGA just unable to get a good setup for that Graviton towards the very end, and time not on their side. And look, what a difference between the two teams. Hey, map 1, Sugar Free wasn't playing. Map 2, Sugar Free was there. And I think his play speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I think he completely lived up to the hype. Holy crap, watching Sugar Free play was like art. That was just so magical to watch. I'm so happy that it was like a build-up. Like he wasn't there and we're all waiting. Where was he? And then bam, he showed up and just destroyed.
And we saw a complete difference in kind of like the composure of GGEA with the presence of Sugarfield on the battlefield right there. He completely made them frantic. There were so many opportunities where they just weren't able to capitalize because they had to constantly fear the threat of Sugar Free just around any corner. So it was great to see.
And I also just love that slowly but surely ZP just keeps scooting over towards closer to you. And eventually he's just going to be sitting in your lap.
See, that's not even intentional here in regards to... Because the problem is I'm over here and like my right arm keeps going into your shots. It's like, do this.
It's
Or actually, we're just trying to just like scarily avoid. Or I just
no,
want
I
to come
totally
with
understand.
Jamerson.
Yeah, no, I see the clear divide at the desk
like,
right now. I
look,
get
yeah,
it.
This is my arm
Yeah,
right now.
there it is. There it is. All right, but throwing back to some Overwatch, what were the really strong plays that we saw coming out of this round?
Well, let's start here. I think this is towards the very end where he's just like, hello, Gray. Comes up immediately, quick shot, gets Keller.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Sugar Free, especially on his Hanzo, especially on his Genji, is an impact player. He's very, very good at what he does. Now, one thing I'm curious on here is that server-wise, Sharp, if he is playing from EU, I don't know if the last 2 games were on West, where maybe we see Sharp come back in for GGEA for the 3rd map because it would be on a server that would actually make sense for him.
Right, and I feel like we're 1-1. We're pretty even right now, so it's really anybody's game going into this. Do you think we'll see a map 5?
The way it's going right now, absolutely, especially if the server part is in play, where if we suddenly see Sharp come in for map 3 and he's playing well, and then he's out for map 4, it won't be a mystery as to what exactly is going on here, right? But that would also really greatly increase the odds that we do see a map 5, and that's just sort of the Contenders server metagame that's been going on while players aren't in the United States.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that was the case of Fusion University. That was the case of XL2. They're at Contenders Season 1. So we might be seeing a lot of Game 5s throughout this season if this holds true. And you know what? I really do want to see Sharp get brought back into this because even though Tracer isn't the strongest on this current patch, he might be what they need to really try and alleviate the threat of Sugar Free. Having an ace Tracer in play can completely shake things up.
Well, we will see if we will be going to a map 5 or if things will just end quickly right after this break.